this committee, that point was well taken, and the ministry said that is one of the intention of this program. They intend to bring all books. You make them soft copy, you feed them into this system. By doing that, you are going to lower the cost of books in this country.
And can I say that if the government focused on that, the digitization of our books and curriculum and materials, you could turn even to Kenyan parents and make them buy devices of their own choice. So there is no reason, if a parent in Kibra can only afford a small phone like this, but the books are available and they can buy and download and have all the books installed, and it costs maybe 2,000 or 3,000 shillings, but they don't have to buy textbooks every year from the cartel. If you try to buy textbooks in this country in November or December, the bookshops don't have it. They hoard the books until January, when they sell them to you at a very high price. If we go to a system where you can buy these things from an app store, the way you download any other app, and parents can decide, or school committees can decide how many gadgets they want to buy of any kind, so we are not tied to one manufacturer. But the fact of the matter is that all these books are available as soft copy. You can give a standard one child all the books they'll ever need from class 1 to class 8 on one device, and they can upgrade the device if they have the money. If not, they can buy a cheap one. That is the way to go. But we will have to engage with the owners and the managers of the textbook printing business and the creators of textbooks to make sure that they are not feeling threatened as we do this revolution in our education sector, that, oh, now their business is out of business. They have to come in and see, in the digital space and digital distribution of learning materials, what can they do. But I can agree with you for sure. Many parents pay thousands of shillings to buy textbooks every year, learning resources and all this.
So the guidance could be.
But if you go to cheap technology,
yes. And by the way, that saving, it will be a huge saving on the part of the parents.
Yes, probably that's what parents are not seeing right now. They're not getting the benefits directly.
And that saving, and that saving will have an effect on the overall economy, because now parents are going to use that money for other productive purposes.
So probably, if we got there,
it's also equity.
If we got there, it will make much more sense for parents, because they would see the savings, and probably that money would go back even into paying more teachers, probably.
Yes, indeed. You see, like when the government came up with a policy of free primary education, people did not realize the effect. They thought it's just government paying into that system. But they also forgot that it means when parents are no longer paying paying for school fees, that money is expended for other positive endeavors. So when you lower that cost, you save parents money. That money is going to be used for more.
But you agree we are not there yet?
No. How else do we become part of the global society apart from doing that? How else? And by doing that, we are going to hinge Kenya to what we call the global society. We can't become
Gentlemen, let's move on from that topic and discuss now what is happening at the coast with the drug, the war against drug cartels, the newfound vigor in fighting drug cartels in Kenya. Of course, the Deputy President was in Mombasa yesterday, only a week after the President was there and declared a war against drug cartels. We even seen a few Kenyans sent extradited to the United States to face charges on drug-related offences. The DP says state will deal ruthlessly with those behind the business of selling illicit drugs, and he was targeting police officers, senior police officers. But the pronouncements that he made and the pronouncements that came from the weekend from the regional coordinator, Nelson Marwa, seem to indicate that there's something to do with politics. Of course, the DP rubbished those claims, saying this war against drug cartels has nothing to do with politicians, but still mentioned that whoever it is that is involved, whether they're close to political powers or not, they will still get to answer. I saw a statement yesterday by Bwana James Orengo, of course representing the opposition, and he was talking about this, and according to Bwana James Orengo, all this is politically motivated.
Well, one, war on drugs is a war that all Kenyans should support, because fundamentally it destroys our society. But just like any war on drugs, be it here or in Colombia, it has some complications. And I hope the government, instead of declaring war one week after the other, they should make the move so that they inform us these are the people that now we brought to book. Because this is tantamount to creating a situation or preparing us that we're going to go for certain individuals who may be politically not correct or correct, but we want to see these individuals, whether they're in the police force, whether they're in the provincial administration, or whether they're individuals, or whether they're politicians. War on drugs must be supported by all of us, but then the government should take the next step. Action, action, action.
Yes.
Let's not hear more rhetoric anymore.
Yes. But Bonakeno Koth, yes, the war against drugs and the drug cartels has been there, but it's been really quiet. What is this with this newfound vigor? How do you read it? Because now we're seeing the president going to Mombasa, the deputy president going to Mombasa, a new force. What do you think informs this awakening?
First of all, I must say, anyone who says they're going to fight a war on drugs must then explain what that means. A war against drug barons can be part of the war on drugs. How many drug barons have been arraigned in Kenyan courts? Are we confident about our Kenyan court system? Just last week, people from the Akasha family alleged to be drug dealers were spirited away for cases in New York. So why couldn't they be tried here? When we talk about war on drugs, tell us where the drugs that are captured go. The other day in Migori, we were told that a whole room full, bigger than this studio, with illegal stockpiles of captured marijuana had disappeared, and the explanation of the police holding that evidence against the criminals who were being arraigned in court was that some mice or rats entered the store and ate that marijuana. Those rats must be very high. So who are we kidding? There is a case of the Magariana Atur brothers who came to Kenya, and after major cocaine busts, and we were told, you know, where did the cocaine show up in court as evidence versus what showed up in court as fake. So they came and claimed goods and went and sold it, and the judges were presented with fake materials as evidence. You cannot fight illegality with illegality. The president himself defied court orders and destroyed evidence in 2 cases. There have been 2 cases in which they've blown up ships. These are ships you're alleging were used to transfer, and we need to know who their owners and needed them. Before the case has proceeded, halfway through the case, you've blown up, either for PR or for some other reason. Because are you sure then the ship was blown up with the cocaine or whatever it was in the ship? Maybe the ship was blown up for the cameras for our entertainment and PR, but the drugs are still in the country. If you're doing the war on drugs comprehensively, you start with the education of our young people on the harm issues. You take care of young people who are already into drugs, or any other member of the police, with policies of harm reductions. For instance, on these hard drugs, do we have serious policies on needle exchanges? What is the ministry doing? What is the county government doing at any level to help those people? Withdrawal from the drugs, rehabilitation, job procedures. There's a whole sort of thing. So the war on drugs is more complicated than standing on a stage making declarations. You actually have to follow it. It's very hard. And then you have to have the commitment at the top, fighting those drug barons and the drug dealers from any linkages. You know, if they are alleged to be in Jubilee, if they are alleged to be in NASA, deal with all of them. You cannot then turn it into, oh, we are 6 months to an election and you want to come to the court with insinuations that here where the problem is, and we know allegations of drug dealing and gun running and ivory smuggling touch upon very powerful people in this country who are untouchable. And
they run across a political divide. According to my understanding, there have been allegations against very many individuals, both in the opposition and in the ruling party. And of course, right now, when it comes to what the president and his deputy are talking about, it's a fight against the drug barons. The big guys, the big boys, the guys who traffic narcotics from Colombia using Kenya as a conduit towards the Middle East or whichever country they go to. It is not really about needles and the people who use the drugs, really, small timers. It is not about how the drugs are affecting the common Kenyan. It is about the big guys who are making money from the drug trafficking business. And therefore the discussion about how that money is being used to fund terrorism, how it is being used to fund the campaigns ahead of the elections come August. So, are you not seeing any politics in this? That probably, as Bwana Kirwa says, if at all you're not you're deemed to be politically incorrect in some sections of this country, this fight could actually be targeting you.
No, I disagree with that notion or that insinuation, and I'm surprised that my colleagues here seems to be holding brief for the drug lords. I say that because my colleague here is lamenting the decision of the president to ban some shipments which are full of drugs. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that calls for celebration. And when you see these guys, or even any other opposition chief, holding brief for such characters, that tells you the money the opposition get probably from those cartels most likely comes from those
and very fast it
because one, you should have no sympathy. No, listen, you should have no sympathy for anyone whose ship has been banned containing drugs. No sympathy at all. This being of a court order is nonsense. Let me tell you what.
I think we're glossing over this issue. I think we're glossing over this issue. And my point is this: the fight against drug cartels is well and good, and it should be applauded by all means. Yes, but it's quickly becoming a Jubilee versus NASA issue. The Deputy President says this on one hand. We see Bwana James Orengo responding. Why should he even be responding? It's because everyone is reading politics into this issue. So that's why these headlines may be good for the public, but that's not the reality. There's so many other underlying issues which are politically motivated in this war against drugs.
No, I disagree. What we should do as Kenyans, we must come together and fight this thing collectively, irrespective whether the casualties of that war will be luminaries from ODM or CORD or from our side. But whoever who is involved. Number two, I belong to the school of thought that there are some social phenomena which law cannot be able to address. Some major problems. Let me give you a good example. I do not think if government was following the law, it could have been able to tackle the issue of, let's say, Sabot Land Defense Force. It needed some extra legal means for government to tackle the problem of at Mount Elgon, that insurgency. If the government was strictly following law, you capture Matakwe, you take him in a court of law, it couldn't have been able to crack that problem. The same applies to drugs. We need some extra legal measures. No wonder the president told us some few years ago, we central members of parliament, to go breaking into some dens and get illicit brew.
So you're seeing that in the coming days you're going to see a lot of extra legal,
including extrajudicial killing
mechanisms.
Me personally, from where I sit, I don't know whether that will be the government direction, but I support 100%. There's a president of Philippines called Duterte. That is a very good man. He said, if you elect me as your president, all these drug lords, I'm going to shoot them. Upon being elected, he's shooting them. So for me, let us not have sympathy at all. Not one iota of sympathy for any person who is peddling drugs. No iota. Whether that person is arrested, extradited via violation of law,
whether it's a Jubilee politician or from the other side,
we must be hard on crime. But these two guys, they seem to be soft on crime. These two guys on the drugs.
I think he's very reckless because he's saying he doesn't care about the casualties. One of the casualties cannot be our constitution and rule of law. It cannot and it shall never be. Because the moment you hand over such powers for extrajudicial killing, and he's being very coy here by giving us a silly, clever example of Sabot Land Defense, because he knows he's looking for votes in Muranga, and he knows how Mungiki were dealt with extrajudicially without the proper procedures, and he wants to celebrate that, but he knows no, just let me talk.
Give him time.
I think you're crazy. he knows what vote he needs in Muranga, and families in Muranga that are still asking about the procedures that were used against the Mungiki in this place, and because he wants their vote, he'll never mention Mungiki. So I'm exposing him, and he wants to shut me down. Tell us the truth. The fact of the matter is, arrest those CORD people. You're in government fully. It's not a government of Nusumkati. Jubilee control the judiciary. No, allow me to talk. Now he's just being rude. You know, arrest those people, take them to court, parade them, take them out of their whatever positions of privilege they hold. But since none has been arrested, then we are left with a government that really is not showing. I want to see the arrest, then we will give the government.
What do you make, for example?
So very good. Yes, who else are they still talking about, and why haven't they arrested? Yes. Why is the president and the coast telling us there is more people to arrest, but he's not arresting them? Who runs this government?
What do you make of that statement by Bwana James Orengo, that it appears to be a politically motivated response to what the government is doing in the fight against drug cartels?
I don't know what James Orengo knows, so I will not comment on that. But I know that the president and his deputy say they are fighting the war on drugs, and I will support them. Let them give us more than their cashes. I want to see where is the meat on the bones, not words.
The concentration in Mombasa, are we saying that the war on drugs is just...
Put people in front of a court. Put people in front of a court. Since they have put nobody, it's political theatre, I think. It's just entertainment.
Well, first of all, I think Mheshimiwa Irungu should actually apologize to us. I have no brief from any quarter. The brief I have is that this country needs to be more moral in terms of issues against the drugs. This country needs to be more strict in handling criminals. And posturing for the last 2 weeks by the president and the deputy president is really a waste of time. They are in charge of the state apparatus. If there are policemen who are aiding some of these narcotics individuals, let them be arrested. They should not be telling us. They should be telling us this police commissioner, this particular person has been arrested because he was doing 1, 2, 3. So the question is, we are not sympathetic to any drug lord. We are sympathetic to the lives of many Kenyans which have been destroyed. And when have they come to town? Why, possibly people may say politically motivated, is why is it on the eve of elections you are now on full scale that you want to fight these drug lords, and you are talking about it instead of arresting them? Arrest them, take them to America if you so wish, or take them to our law courts. And let's deal with the issue. Or
in the worst case, if you say you want to do extrajudicial, tell us we even arrested and killed this one because of drugs. But since they have killed nobody, they have not arrested anybody. They have just talked. Words with no action reflects very badly on a government that has full instruments of power, intelligence and everything. And I'll tell you, we must link this to the fight against corruption. If you have officers who are stationed at the coast and never want to leave the coast, and the police commissioner IG cannot move them, the IPOA cannot oversee their work, you know, the National Police Service Commission cannot. It's all about a corrupt system that to be stationed as a police officer in the coast, to have access to those drug routes, is a way to become a multi-millionaire and very influential. A super policeman who's untouchable is a key signal of our corruption, and we see it in many sectors. So the invitation there would be, if we have to go with Kangata's thinking and he's being honest and not hypocritical, is tell us, will Uhuru Kenyatta then, at the point where he asks us, you want me to parade them and kill them at Uhuru Park? Corrupt people, tell us, are you ready? Will Jubilee take that step 6 months to the election and put all corrupt people with the evidence from the Kavuras and others of this world and kill them in public the way they did to Sabaot and Mungiki? No. So then he tells us where Jubilee is soft on corruption.
Well, the Jubilee leaders have promised tough action against police officers, and that's a headline today with regard to that issue. They promised that
another
tough disciplinary action, not actually promised, they say already disciplinary action has been taken against a number of police officers who have been abetting the narcotics trade in that particular section of the country. We're talking about the coastal region. Hence my question, isn't this problem deeper into the country?
It is a huge problem. Even in Nairobi,
the coast region.
Even in Nairobi, young people are being affected by drugs. The drugs are reaching here. It's destroying families. It is destroying, you know, whole communities.
Whole generation.
Really, so let us tackle it fully. And I think if we can find the heads of these drug businesses and finish them, regardless of their political
So we are not seeing politics here in this.
I am saying
of course,
they should
even
be finished.
from where I sit, government should take a very strong action against one who is in this business. It's a very evil business. It's a very ruthless underworld, and any action that is taken by the government to tackle this one is welcome. I strongly doubt as to whether our legal system can be able to tackle this system. To take, for instance, the way Akashas were able to waggle around the court system. By the way, when you look at the way they were able, they were strictly within the law. They would go seek for adjournments, they would go maneuver and probably say they are sick. It's what happens in every day in court. There's nothing unusual about it.
Yes.
But by doing that, they got leeway of continuing doing harm to millions and millions of
But it goes back to what Ken Okoth was saying, that the issue of drugs is the SMS twins with corruption. That once you have a corrupt system, you are not able to sort out issues of drugs. Otherwise, if there's no corruption, these officers should not have been disciplined. They should have been identified at the time they were assisting these fellows, and action should have been taken at that time. Don't tell us when we have destroyed the generation.
But
In
one
fact,
thing,
this war against drugs is not a small issue. We are destroying another 2 generations in Kenya. And we should look at it away from Jubilee, away from NASA, or any other lenses. Look at it as a serious national problem.
But you do agree that we run the risk of actually reducing it to Jubilee versus NASA?
No, but you see,
That's
but you see, we need to celebrate what government has done. For the first time in our history.
How are they
No.
doing it? You see, the
we
style
need
is,
to celebrate what government has done.
you cannot celebrate when the style is wrong.
But you see, the reason, these
Yes.
people are talking about the procedure. They are not talking about the content or even the end result.
According to you, the end justifies.
When did the
Yes,
government
it
come
does.
to town? When
Because,
did
for
they come to
instance,
town?
for the first time,
Yes.
we have been able to extradite people who have a negative
Despite the
reputation.
court order, yeah.
Yes, we have taken them to America. That's something that we need to celebrate. It shows this government has strength and the resolve to handle this issue.
After 4 years.
It means if it was a CORD or even a NASA government, they would have said, oh, we follow the law.
Give us a chance and we'll tell you how to do it.
Gentlemen, let's move on now to the real politics. Because the war against drug cartels, I can tell you, already it has taken that angle. It's a Jubilee versus NASA debate now, and probably we could even lose out on the real war against drug cartels. But let's now take a look at the real headlines to do with politics. Kalonzo faces revolt over Raila betrayal. Wiper Party chief faces internal rebellion over suspicion that he might turn his back on his opposition colleagues and stage his own stab at the presidency. Now this headline, what does it do to the discussions you're already having about NASA unity? Everyone says, of course, the only way to beat Jubilee is NASA to remain united, but there's a lot of suspicion. Will you even last till the time we have party primaries? Do you think NASA will last until August, given such headlines this early, 6 months to the elections?
In my committee, I'm not aware of this revolt, because when you go to that committee, we leave our parties outside the door, because we are interested in coming up with a single presidential candidate and also candidates in various elected positions to face our brothers and sisters on the other side of the divide. I am strong in the sense that lessons have been learned, and one big lesson is that when NAC became an entity, we were able to take KANU home. I'm sure my colleagues in Jubilee also do realize that NASA is in town and is likely to do a lot of work, and they come out with a single presidential candidate and candidates in other levels.
But the concern is why Kalonzo? Because why is he being seen as the weakest link? Why is Bwana Raila or Mudavadi or Wetangula not being seen as the one who could possibly bolt out of the coalition? Why Bwana Kalonzo?
Well, possibly you should ask the writer of the story. What I'm aware is that Mheshimiwa Kalonzo has 3 members in our committee, just like any other co-principal, and we are 12 of us, and we are dealing with the issue, and it has not reached a stage where Wiper say that they are not part of the discussions. They have very strong members, and I'm sure we are likely to see more.
Let me read part of the story, and that's on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka is facing an internal revolt over fears the party might betray its opposition partners in the August election. Mr. Musyoka has been at loggerheads with his 3 political lieutenants, that's Senators David Musila, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Johnson Mudama, over the manner in which the party is being run. Now, Mr. Musyoka's allies are worried that he is contemplating running for the presidency on a Wiper ticket outside the main opposition alliance. That is beside complaints that he has preferred candidates for various seats across the region.
Well, but I think that's internal Wiper issue. It has nothing to do with
about
the coalition.
Yes.
Yes.
But,
and also even the other one. The only member of our team that has been mentioned there is Mheshimiwa Mudhama. And Mheshimiwa Mudhama is very focused on a single presidential candidate. Mheshimiwa Nyenze, Mheshimiwa Farah, all of them are as focused as the rest of us. And I'm sure some of these myths will be destroyed.
Now, of course, Bwana Mutahi Ngunyi, and I watched him on TV. I remember the one who came up with a theory about tyranny of numbers, and it came to pass. He categorically stated that Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka could be seeking to run to go it alone. And if he does so, it does complicate the mathematics for the opposition, NASA. And given history, he's done it before in 2007. When he went it alone, and it complicated numbers for the opposition. Then later he was rewarded by the Kibaki administration by being given the vice president's position. Do you think it is possible that this could happen again this time round?
Yes, I foresee that, and for a very good reason. Number one, political power is never given. From a community, we say political power is never given through a plate. You have to grab it. And therefore, if you want to become the president of this country, Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka, grab political power. Don't sit down and wait for people to tell you Tosha. There's no Toshaism here in this country. Fight for it. That's number one. Number two, there is no president, there's no person who has ever become a president of this country except the founding father of this country without vying severally. We had a person called well, of course, of course, you must also do away with Moi and Kenyatta, because those people were president during when Kenyan society was quite closed. After the reintroduction of multi-partyism in 1992, Kibaki vied in 1992, 1997, he won in 2002. Uhuru Kenyatta vied in 2002, he won in 2007. So in 2013. So that history shows that for you to win and become a president, you need to vie at least one or twice, and then you get a stature of a serious presidential contender. Even now, look at NASA. Why is it that NASA, people seems to be saying the guy who is going to be crowned as the front runner is Musalia Mudavadi? It is because he vied and became well, a respectable, I think, number 3 or 4. So again, look, like a Nairobi governor. Why is it that everyone is saying we want to support Peter Kennedy? It has everything to do with the fact that he showed an interest of the presidency. So the point is, if you want to become a president of this country, you vie and fail. Vie and fail. Keep on knocking. Even Jesus said, keep on knocking, the door is going to be open for you. So for me, Kalonzo, if you listen to me, knock again. No one is going to give you that seat for free. So don't be cheated by this NASA thing. This NASA thing is going to capture your capability and your dream of becoming a very good president.
And of course, this headline plays very much into Jubilee's hands, because this is exactly what they would like to see.
I think a united NASA, a united opposition is a nightmare for Jubilee. So, of course, they'll want to split up and pretend to be Kalonzo's friend, giving him terrible advice. Absolutely terrible advice. What is the point in the scenario? You want to have a runoff to what end? Let us come up with clear manifesto. We know what NASA stands for: the ending of corruption, the uplifting of everybody, building up national unity, things that Jubilee has not been very keen on doing. Fighting corruption, unifying the country, delivering on their process. The economy is growing in numbers for just a very few people, like 40 millionaires and billionaires at the top, while we get 40 million very poor people who can't even have food. You know, hunger is real in this country. So there is a purpose why we're competing for power and need an alternative vision of government. Let us start with those issues. And NASA has to articulate its message beyond the personalities to hear the concrete issues. You know, you saw last night just on this channel, young people saying they won't vote because they are not convinced the voting makes a difference. That only serves the interests of the people in power and the status quo to keep things the way it is, while the country's future is being looted. The promises of investing into a more just country for everyone is not coming along. I think we have seen in the region, in Africa across. If you unite the opposition, you win. They did it in Gambia. Yahya Jammeh, after over 22 years as a military strongman, is gone. They did it in Ghana. They united. They did. Buhari, an older man, General Buhari, over 70 years old, got elected, getting rid of Goodluck Jonathan, made him a one-term president. Where the opposition does not unite, in places like Uganda, you have Mbabazi running, Kizza Besigye running, and very clearly Museveni has the state machinery to his side, and it's not a very open system. He wins. In Kenya, we have an open democracy in many senses, and if we have a clean register and a credible election, and the opposition is united, I think Jubilee will go home. That is the fact of the matter, because to come back to report to citizens what they have accomplished in the last 4 or 5 years has been a little bit hard. So the risk here, and you look even in Tanzania, the opposition that was running against CCM was divided. They had more than one candidate. When they coalesced, it was too late. They were not full-headed, and they couldn't push. They made their biggest gains ever against CCM, but they couldn't just dislodge. So the question here in Kenya is, are you going to change a government, a one-term government?
Do you feel like Musyoka is being unfairly targeted by such headlines?
No, he is a senior politician. He is not just Mr. Musyoka. He's Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. He's a senior in the legal profession. So let's, a former vice president of this country. I think he is much better off contributing to a united opposition.
Do you feel he's being unfairly targeted by such a headline?
No, I think
by singling him out as the one who probably looks
if I was the
most likely to.
If I was the editor and running with narratives, I would use such a headline. So you have to also listen to the purposes of selling newspaper. Any story with the name of Raila in it, and then you throw in betrayal in a country that watches more soap opera per capita than any other, is making headline soap operas, and then it's beautiful and it sells the papers. When you go in and actually read the story, the story has no meat. This is page 4. The story does not have meat compared to what the headline is. So this headline is here just malicious to sell the paper. But when you read the story, it has no meat. It's allegations, there's no quote and this and that. That is very serious.
Look here, Kalonzo.
All I'm saying is a united opposition can win. The moment we divide, Jubilee will have the advantage because they're in control of everything and they have a locked-in set of votes on their side, an advantage starting. We must unite so many pieces and hold it together. If we lose even 2 or 3 of those threads, we will not make it.
The very fact these guys, NASA, they are not even considering Kalonzo as a probable presidential candidate, it shows they have some content towards him. He's the most senior.
No.
Look here. Raila appears to be the preeminent leader of the opposition. Why? By virtue of consistently vying for the presidency. So there is nothing wrong with.
But Raila was prime minister of this country. So
even Kalonzo Musyoka was the VP.
Yes.
If I were Kalonzo Musyoka, they failed to give me that ticket, I would bolt out. I would bolt out because he has been in government. By the way, he has been government longest. He became a member of parliament in 1984, 85 or thereabouts.
84,
isn't it? And Raila, I think, became an MP in 1992. Surely, by virtue of experience in government, he has the card. But now look, they are treating him as
that is not true.
To me, Kalonzo bolt out. Why? For obvious reason. You want to build a stock. You want to become a preeminent opposition leader, just like Raila Odinga. If you stay in there, this guy, of course, you'll become you don't become a president by just vying one time. But
let's wrap up this conversation.
In fact, sorry, the final point. In fact, if I were him, I would consider I would even join in Jubilee. Why? Look here. I would do this. If Kalonzo was to join Jubilee, he'd definitely be in government. Because I was saying, it makes all the sense.
But
being a number 3, look here.
There's a position like number 3 within Jubilee.
Of course there is. So it makes sense. I won't mention it here. It makes sense for being number 3 in government than now he's just out there in the cold for 5 years
Why? Why?
Bwana Kirwa.
What value does it have?
Let's have Bwana Kirwa.
Well, I think it's more of a prayer than really a statement of fact, because one, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo has a chance like any other principal of being nominated as a presidential candidate. Number two, look at it this way. Vying is not really in terms of longevity. Today, the two individuals in power, Uhuru and Ruto, they met me in parliament, Uhuru through nomination. Therefore, you cannot say just because I was ahead of you in parliament and I served for 20 years, it doesn't make you any senior than the other. Kenyans have their own dynamics of determining who becomes their leader. You may be surprised, it may not be among the four principals. It's not a must that the coordinating committee must give us the name of among the four. It can be even Ken Okoth.
Yes.
As long as we know this is the person who can take Jubilee home.
Okay. Yeah. Well, time for another break. When we return, we discuss the issue of defections from both Jubilee and ODM and court parties for that matter. That's when Power Breakfast returns.